Hi class, I'm going to do a video response here talking about moral foundations theory and some of the discussions we've been having regarding the righteous mind text. One of the things I want to mention, we have these foundations, and it seems as though every human person, every human group will make moral judgments about harm and care, about fairness, about loyalty, authority, sanctity, liberty. These seem to be universals. And anytime something's universal, there's a good chance it has a biological foundation. It can't merely be learned, because then you would see it in some groups where that's part of their religion or culture, but on a different part of the globe, you wouldn't see it because those groups would have a different moral compass or a different set of moral rules. But when these things tend to be universal, cutting across human groups, even ones that are totally isolated, language, culture, all of that, when we still see these things crop up, it seems like there's a biological foundation, and that's what Haidt's trying to point out. But one thing I want to make clear is these foundations can be triggered with good moral reasons, but these things can be triggered using bad moral reasons. The fact that we have these moral foundations does not mean we will use them well. It doesn't mean they will evoke good actions in us. It's just an attempt to help us understand ourselves and our moral impulses a little bit better, right? So I will give an example. When the issue of like guns and gun control comes up, right? There are lots of bad arguments to go around on the liberal side, on the conservative side. They survive these arguments, these memes, these bad ideas, because they are effective at evoking elephants, lots of elephants, right? So if I'm a liberal and I want gun control, I think gun control would be a good thing, then I'm going to try to evoke your harm care foundation. If we don't enact gun control, then more kindergartners are going to die because of Sandy Hook. More people are going to have access to guns to commit suicide. And I can do that in a way that is data-driven. I can do that in a way that's thoughtful and give it a well-structured argument. But often they are not. It's a slippery slope fallacy, right? Unless we do this, we're going to end up in chaos. Put in your tragic image, next school shooting, whatever. But the arguments, even if they're not good, can be really effective because the harm care foundation is in all of us, and it gets evoked with those images. Like, if you care for people, if you're really pro-life, then we need gun control, right? Again, I'm talking about the bad ways in which we make that argument. Bad arguments can still be effective because they get that elephant, right? On the other side, conservatives often will use the Liberty Foundation on the same issue. If you let the government pass legislation that requires background checks, pass legislation that only allows us to buy a certain number of guns, then pretty soon the government will take all of our guns. The government will become a bully, a tyrant, and they will take our freedom away. And so that's not a great argument, right? Saying we would like less bullets in a magazine clip or something is not the same as saying we're going to take all your guns. But if I can prompt fear in my argument, and I can play on the Liberty Foundation, oh, don't let the government, which we don't trust, come and regulate, right? Then you motivate a lot of elephants. On both sides, there can be really bad arguments that survive and live because they are triggering us in various ways. So the foundations and the way we play on the foundations does not make us good or bad, right or wrong. They're just descriptive about the kinds of things we happen to care about. The issue for me is, how do we avoid allowing ourselves to fall prey to our emotions, fall prey to bad ideas and arguments? How do we step back and try to evaluate good information, peer-reviewed data in ways that can help us make more informed decisions, right? More thoughtful decisions. And so I think that's important. You might be persuaded by something but that doesn't make what persuaded you good. Advertisers have known this for a long time. Advertisers don't care about truth or they're going to provide images that are funny. They're going to put celebrities on the screen. They're going to do things that they know prompt us to want to buy their product. They're going to motivate our elephant, even if that's through insecurity, right? This product will make it so you don't smell so bad, so your hair doesn't look so bad, so that so you're not bald anymore. Whatever. Here's a pill that'll fix your problem. They want to play on that emotional part of us to get us to act. But that doesn't mean the advertiser is providing a good reason or a good argument. They're just experts at understanding human elephants, right? So we are easily persuaded, we are easily led astray, we are easily led into error. We should know by now, after reading The Righteous Mind, that our powers to reason and deduce are severely limited. We have confirmation bias, we're tribal, we want to give the benefit of the doubt to our own team, we want to be skeptical of people that are not part of our team. So if I'm a Republican and a conservative gives an argument that's not very good, I tend to believe it anyway. If a liberal gives a really good argument, I tend to not believe it because they're not part of my team, right? The similar, if I'm a liberal and a Democrat gives a bad argument, I tend to believe it. If a conservative gives a good argument, I reject it. This is a problem, right? We need to become aware of how this is working in our lives. The second thing I wanted to talk about is how does the Liberty Foundation connect to the church? That was a question on one of the prompts. How does the Liberty Foundation connect to the church? And I just want to give you a few examples. So when the church, any church, comes across as being controlling, judgmental, if you want to be part of us, you have to adhere to a certain set of behaviors, a certain set of beliefs. The more strict a particular church or a particular denomination becomes, the more people are triggered in terms of their Liberty Foundation. Lots of young people, lots of millennials are skeptical of organized religion. They feel like to join means that my behavior is not going to be controlled, right? So like at a Nazarene institution, you sign a document, you're not going to drink, you're not going to do drugs, you're not going to have premarital sex, you're not going to engage in gay relationships, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that. So there's a list of things that trigger, right? Oh, I don't want to join something that's going to try to control my life. It's the Liberty Foundation being evoked. Some people's Liberty Foundation is tuned really low. They don't mind. Like, I want to be part of this community. Of course I'll follow the rules. No problem. But other people have a much stronger Liberty Foundation that wants to rebel against that control, against that authority. So we have a hard time hitting a balance, right? So historically, the Catholic Church was very controlling. Behaviors, beliefs, what is orthodox, what is not, you needed to toe the line. Another example in modern day might be like the Mormon Church is viewed this way, right? If you meet a Mormon person, you say, oh, I know something about this person because Mormons tend to be X, Y, and Z. You need to believe certain things. You need to live a particular way. You need to treat people a particular way. Only some people can enter the temple. So there's more structure. There's more uniformity in the Catholic Church and the Mormon Church, right? There's more top-down authority. And so for many people, even religious people, oh, I don't want to join that particular religious group because they're trying to control. It's like a cookie cutter. Everyone looks and acts and believes the same. There's this control that happens, and there's a natural reaction to that. But Protestants have gone so far in the other direction. We've got now thousands of denominations, all slightly different from one another. So if you don't like something your pastor says, you just go find a church that fits you better, right? You church shop till you find what you want. The problem is now, if you meet someone on a plane and they say, oh, I'm Christian, you don't know what that means. That means almost nothing. I'm a Christian could mean I am like all on board. My Christianity is linked to being an American. All Americans are Christian, right? Conservative, pro-military, all the way. Or you could meet someone and say they're a Christian, and that means they're like an anarchist, non-violent, revolutionary. It could mean, saying I'm a Christian could mean you're Shane Claiborne, and it could mean, sorry about that. Saying I'm a Christian means I could be Shane Claiborne, or I could be Jerry Falwell, right? Both Christian, but if you asked them what they believed, how they lived, what they thought was most vital, you couldn't get different answers, right? The Protestant faith is so diverse. We give so much freedom. The people that come into the doors of my church, I'm not always sure what they believe or what they think, right? I've taken the reins off. Well, that can be a problem too. Now we don't have an identity. Now we don't have a core set of values that we all agree on, or a core set of beliefs or doctrines that we adhere to, right? So it can go from overly controlling and triggering that Liberty Foundation, like, ooh, I don't want to be a part of that, to way too much freedom where now saying I'm a Christian doesn't really mean much, or at least people aren't sure what it means, right? And so how do we find that middle ground? So the Liberty Foundation, I think, is triggered a lot. If you've ever been on a church staff where you feel like the head pastor is a kind of bully, a dictator, top down, they're going to tell you what to do, etc. You can get reactive, like, why don't they trust me? Why don't they give me more autonomy in my job? Why don't they? That feeling of being oppressed, not in the, like, oh, I'm a slave or something, but, like, still kind of oppressed, like, told what to do or not trusted. That's your Liberty Foundation at work. So I think this happens in churches quite a bit. The question is, how do we allow ourselves to feel that and then slow down and ask ourselves the question, what's the right way to respond, right? How do I appropriately react now given what my elephant's doing? Hopefully this is helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll see you online.